was jobless, a lone parent. I was the biggest failure I knew.
Hello and welcome back to Edinburgh Travel Maniac. For those who tune in for the first time, this is my brand new channel where I explore some of Edinburgh's stories, places and best kept secrets inside and out. Please, if you have missed the first entry to the series, and if you can, go and watch The True Story of Greyfriars Bobby, a truly touching reveal of Scotland's most loved dog. As Edinburgh was declared the first UNESCO city of literature in the world for its literal activity, it felt right to start with a literal topic. Since Sir Walter Scott, Robert Louis Stevenson, Robert Burns, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, along with many other writers, are celebrated throughout the city with statues, memorials, plaques, place names and tours. But before we learn about the man that you probably heard of, let's start with one of the most celebrated writers, J.K. Rowling, and her iconic creation, Harry Potter. During the editing of the Greyfriars episode with Bobby, something at the back of my head started to tell me to Got to do it! J.K. Rowling lived in Edinburgh while she started up the series of books that made her the world's first billionaire author ever and inspired the lives of millions of children around the globe. So let me take you on this exploration of myths and real-world locations that possibly inspired Joanne during the creation of Harry Potter. Welcome to the Harry Potter and the Independent Bookshop. So let's start with some background information nuggets. We are in November 1991 when Joanne Rowling has moved to Porto to start fresh after a series of jobs that were not really working out for her. Her breakup with her boyfriend and her mother's death, who was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, makes it understandable why she was seeking change. In Porto, she had a fresh job waiting for her as an English language teacher. Since she already had some ideas for the characters of the Harry Potter books, the very first chapter started to take shape here, as she had time to write during the day since the classes concluded during the evening hours. You shall know that the idea of Harry Potter came to her first in 1990 on the long train journeys to Manchester that she took to see her by this time ex-boyfriend. She did not have pen and paper on her, so she was able to let her fantasy go and give birth to the characters in her head. Later on, even before Porto, she had some writings done, but she did not even tell her mother, who eventually never knew about Harry Potter. In Porto, she met with a Portuguese television journalist, and even though their relationship was troubled, they got married on the 16th of October 1992. As far as the story goes, troubles were not final for Joanne. So in late 1993, with a draft of Harry Potter in her suitcase, Rowling moved with her daughter to Edinburgh, Scotland, to be near her sister. Living only on £69 a week as she got support from the government and a friend who helped her move into her first flat in the city, her journey towards becoming one of the most successful women in history was just on the corner, pun intended. This is where this video starts.
My highest ambition would be that long after everyone's forgotten that I was a single mother and that I was poor and that I wrote in cafes, people are still reading about Harry Potter.
Okay, so we're back at Greyfriars Kirkyard. This was the location we briefly explored in the previous video. This time we are going to look for our first Harry Potter clue. Just to get it out of the way, she managed to finally divorce a Portuguese journalist in June of 1995. Rowling described the marriage as short and catastrophic. She experienced deep depression and sought medical help when she contemplated suicide. These dark times of depression inspired the Dementors, the soul-sucking creatures introduced in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. But we are here to find Tom Riddle's grave, as the stories around town tell that Rowling often visited Greyfriars Kirkyard, a must-see attraction when in town. It's not just Greyfriars Bobby and the literary connections that drive the visitors to this burial ground. Perhaps in one of the videos I go through all the stories related to this land.
Neville, no offense, but I really don't care.
Well,
Wicked.
So to find Tom Riddle's grave, you first have to enter the graveyard and find the Flodden Wall, which was erected by the Scots after their defeat against the English in 1513, led by King James IV, while the Scots were expecting an invasion. The eastern parts of the 7.3 meters high defense line can be still seen as it was wrapped around Greyfriars Kirkyard. Once you located the wall, just pass by it and turn right where the path will lead you to the grave. It has been reported that the grave of Thomas Riddle, a general who died on the 24th of November 1806 at the age of 72 in Greyfriars Cemetery, could have inspired J.K. Rowling when she was naming the character, although the spelling differs. This line is actually from edinburghnews.scotsman.com, where I was looking through some research and found an article about the cemetery itself. Read the article by the Scotsman. Even though the kirkyard is trying to prevent the erosion caused by the visitors, it is difficult to keep everything at its place. So thanks for that.
It didn't seem at all the sort of film where the actor completely changes and, oh my God, is it really him? No, you meant to know it's me. Obviously easily labelled as vanity project for this actor and all that stuff.
So how did you end up getting the part?
You just have to hate Harry Potter.
So the reason why I brought you up to King George IV Bridge is due to the views over the Greyfriars Kirkyard, and we are just approaching an extremely popular location among the Harry Potter fans, the Elephant House. As of February 2022, the cafe is temporarily closed due to a fire that took place in August last year. However, this venue still has the signage claiming the birthplace of Harry Potter. You can imagine the thousands of visitors who came here and noted that the books were born here. I'm not exactly sure why this is, and that will remain a mystery for me, as later on we will visit a different cafe which I was more aware of as the original birthplace of the books. But just to avoid confusion with anyone, this all sounds seemingly silly, as we kind of already cleared out that the birthplace of the books took place on Rowling's train rides to Manchester. Anyways, as in my opinion, there are plenty of coffee shops in town, and Joanne probably visited multiple of these places during the writing of the series. 7 books won't really be written in just one place. For example, it is commonly known that she rented the suite of the Balmoral Hotel for months to finish off the 7th book of the series. This was to create a far cry between the first place she lived when she sketched down the early chapters of the series and the last. Now it's called the J.K. Rowling Suite, commemorating the author. As far as the which coffee shop J.K. Rowling wrote the book's eternal question goes, my good friend Google tells me after a quick search that she mostly visited the Elephant House during the period between 1996 and 1997, once the first book was already published. Leading us to a different cafe, but just in a minute, because before we do that, I will take you to... Okay, so right now I'm just walking upwards Victoria Street from Grassmarket. Victoria Street is one of the most photographed locations in Scotland. This is due to its gentle curve and colourful shop fronts, make it a favourite spot for tourist photos, postcards and TV adverts. By the way, this is ewh.org.uk, Street Stories Victoria Street, link in the description. As you can see on this poster that I got from Thomas, the bookshop keeper that we're going to visit at the end of this episode, you can see that the 16th century Edinburgh was rather compact and was mostly located on this tail of a rock formation, finishing up with the Castle Hill where Edinburgh Castle sits. By the late 17th century, this led to an unusually dense population and the city was screaming for expansion. Once the plans for Edinburgh's new town were completed and the first phase have been built, to make sure that the inhabitants of the capital won't dismiss the old town, and because the city wanted to free up some space, some extra streets were added, including Victoria Street. I will now quote from edinburghlive.co.uk and also link the article in the description, where they describe the street as a magical street in real life. On the north side of the street, a terrace was built with a series of arches underneath, which were later filled with shops. The colorful walls and the usually busy cobblestone streets started to inspire the Potter fans, and according to edinburghlive.co.uk, as I said earlier, once you Google map Diagon Alley, Victoria Street is the one that comes up. I can see why this could have been an inspiration for Rowling to create the cobblestone wizarding alley and shopping area. According to the Edinburgh World Heritage Site, today the street is a charming corner of old town, but recent speculation suggests that the relic of its darker past may still exist. And this is actually where things get a little bit more exciting and interesting. So this was the location of Major Weir's house, a man notoriously known as the Wizard of the West Bow. The West Bow is just nearby, actually, it's a small street. Maybe he was a real Harry Potter, perhaps, who was actually later on executed for witchcraft in 1670. It was thought that this house was completely demolished when Victoria Street was built, but it now seems that some parts may still exist. I mean, Edinburgh's Gothic architecture, world-famous university, and the relationship with witchcraft undoubtedly can be connected with the world of Harry Potter. And here are two images I found. This is Edinburgh Castle, and you can now see a different image of Hogwarts. I kind of just made that connection while I was doing this research, and I think you can clearly see some similarities when it comes to the drawings and real-life photos. Apologies, we got sidetracked for a second there. Make sure to tune in next time where I take you to this brilliant 17th century pub and to another place that I really like. You know what to do, subscribe and like and love this with all your hearts, please. Okay, back to the cafe, this time for real. Here we go on Nicolson Street. And if you're a Harry Potter researcher, you have probably heard about this street because of Nicolsons Cafe is situated right here, just above one of my favorite spots, Black Medicine. Nicolsons Cafe, according to Rowling, was one of the most commonly visited locations during writing the Potter series. You can read this plaque that sits on the wall of Black Medicine. So when I moved to Edinburgh, the restaurant above Black Medicine used to be called Spoon. As you can still see it on Google Maps, that Nicolsons Cafe used to be called Spoon Restaurant. Just to make it a little bit more interesting, before Spoon it was actually called Nicolsons Cafe. So it changed names or the owners left, I'm not quite sure. And later on, of course, Spoon changed its name back to Nicolsons Cafe, or again, maybe a different owner. Doesn't really matter. Here's a quick video with J.K. Rowling after finishing the first book, shoot at those days still called as Nicolsons Cafe. And by the way, please don't sue me for any of this footage. I'm all using this because of goodwill and I would like the people to know about this place. So if you can, please don't sue me.
Well, it amused me.
But I am the chosen one. Okay, sorry. Kidding.
I hope the books are supposed to be funny as well, and a lot of the humour for me comes from this conflict between this magical, very subversive world and the workaday world, where people simply refuse to see what's right under their noses, which is that there are still wizards living everywhere, but in secret.
My body's gone!
Music.
There are a few rumors that even I started to believe. One of them that I heard a lot is that Rowling's flat did not have heating, and that is why she went to this cafe. Nobody really knows who started this, but this doesn't make too much sense, since she actually had a pretty bad flat, but overall she says that she did have heating in that place. The other one I just read, and this one is even better, is that she wrote chapters of the book on napkins. She says that the best thing she ever wrote on... She says the best thing she ever wrote on is an airplane sick bag, and the Hogwarts houses were sketched up on it. Not bad. To add to this, I was living with 2 law Erasmus students from Hungary for 3 months above Spoon Restaurant, and I had no idea, for example, that parts of the wizarding world were born just beneath my bedroom.
I think it's funny. I've been told by kids in their letters and so on that they find it funny. It's also frightening, and I wanted it to be both, and judging by letters and judging by the reaction of children that I've met, I'd say that I succeeded in that, so that's all I wanted.
Ready, Fred? Ready, George? Bottoms up.
Let me take you to the first shop visit of the series. So as the story goes, and today we are in 2022, just a little bit more than 3 years ago, Thomas was selling his book collection on the streets from a pop-up location after returning from Paris. Once he learned how to fix typewriters from YouTube, he established Scotland's only typewriter repair shop. By the way, the currently ongoing typewriter exhibition at the National Museum has his stamp on it as well, since he was brought in as an expert in refurbishing and displaying the items. The exhibition is just a small part of the entire museum, but it's worth a visit. You can do this until the end of April. Since Tom has just recently launched his online portfolio, this is the moment when I will take a break and finally give the word to him. Since Tom has just recently launched his online portfolio, this is the moment when I take a break and give the word to him.
Number one, isn't this a lot of fun? Hello, my name is Tom, and this is Typewronger Books. We're the smallest bookshop in Edinburgh and the only typewriter repair shop in Scotland. We sell a lot of small press, independent publications, but also a lot of the stuff that you will find in bigger bookshops too. We're always happy to send books out all over the world, and you can find us on our online store and on Instagram and on all sort of forms of social media. But you can also write to the shop on a typewriter, if you so wish, and we will always write back. Thought I might tell you a little bit about typewriters. The first typewriter, or first widely available typewriter, was a Scholes and Glidden, and it came out in 1874. This is not a Scholes and Glidden. I'm afraid I don't have one of those in my collection, but this is a Royal 10 from 1914, and I can use it to show you a little something. When the first typewriters came out, nobody knew how to type, and so they deliberately put the word typewriter hidden in the QWERTY keyboard. So it was made certain that all of the letters for the word typewriter would be on this top line of text. The idea being that if you were trying to show someone how the typewriter worked, you would just say, oh, well, you might think it's difficult to type, but if you want to type the word typewriter, look, it's very easy, Typewriter. And it would be very easy for brand reps who didn't know how to type, and it would be very easy for customers who were just trying the machine for the first time. I always find it fun to look down at a computer keyboard now and realise that the word typewriter is still hidden in that top line of text, an 1874 marketing ploy, still in our modern technology.
Hi everyone, and thanks for watching my very first episode of Edinburgh Travel Maniac. Also, super thanks for Thomas for showing us your bookshop. Please, if you can, support Typewronger Books and similar local independent businesses. Also, if you have any thoughts about Harry Potter or the locations I've been showing you, leave a comment and I will get back to you. In the future episodes, I will take you to locations outside Edinburgh as well. The next episode is already brewing, so it's worth to stay tuned. Right, Bobby?